When I think of good Tennessee quarterbacks over the last few years, not many come to mind. Josh Dobbs is by far the biggest name, and you could also say Tyler Bray and currently Hendon Hooker have all put themselves in a different territory. I'm not going to dare say Jarrett Guarantano was very good, Quentin Dormady was a bust, Justin Morley never lived up to the hype, and they had plenty of other guys who just never did anything. With that being said, Tennessee has missed out on some really good quarterbacks. Today, I want to highlight 8 different Tennessee quarterback mess-ups. At one point, the Volunteers either had these guys committed, or they were someone that they never gave a shot and they transferred and got better somewhere else. I think this is going to be a very exciting video, but it is a completely obscure and new topic, so if you want me to do more videos like this and you want to support it, please be sure to hit that like button, as that's the only way I know if you guys like it, and it'll be really important for this video. Also, don't forget to subscribe, and now let's get started and talk about 8 Tennessee quarterback mess-ups. So the first guy we're going to start out with is someone who was originally committed to the program, but his offer was pulled. His name was Michael Penix Jr. He came out of the city of Tampa, Florida, and was always seen as a high-impact player. He could have played multiple positions, but he eventually settled on the quarterback spot. Despite only being a high 3-star recruit, Penix had offers to multiple big-time programs. He eventually decided to commit to the Tennessee Volunteers. At the time, the Volunteers were under head coach Butch Jones, and he was very excited to get Penix into the program. Unfortunately, things didn't work out for Butch, as he was fired. Then the new staff of Jeremy Pruitt came in, and his new offensive coordinator, Tyson Helton, yes, he is Clay's brother, wanted a quarterback by the name of JT Shrout instead. Because of that, they pulled Penix's offer, and Shrout committed to the team. Well, most of the time, that wouldn't come back to bite you, right? Well, Shrout was terrible and he's now at Colorado, and Penix has gone on to play spectacular for Indiana. In his 3 years with the Hoosiers so far, he's thrown for over 4,000 yards, 29 touchdowns, and has 6 more rushing touchdowns. While he has battled injuries in all 4 of his years, and this year he looks like a shell of his old self, he has helped resurge Indiana football. At one point he was an NFL draft prospect, and Pro Football Focus had him rated as the top quarterback in the Big Ten going into 2021. You messed up, Tennessee. The next guy is someone who was on the roster, but after never getting a chance to play, he transferred and became one of the best players in school history at his respective program. His name was Riley Ferguson. Many of you guys probably know who that is, but in case you didn't, he was a 3-star quarterback coming out of the city of Matthews, North Carolina. He went to Butler High School, and according to 24/7 Sports, was a 3-star recruit and the number 23 pro-style quarterback in the class of 2013. He ended up committing to the Tennessee Volunteers, and not only did he commit, but he actually got a chance to go there. Sadly for him, he was buried on the depth chart, so he decided to leave the program and go to a junior college. He went to Coffeyville and became the top JUCO quarterback in the nation. He ended up deciding to go to Memphis, where he became a pretty good player. He ended up starting after Paxton Lynch did for the Tigers, and in his first year under the helm, he threw for nearly 4,000 yards with 32 touchdowns and 4 more on the ground. He followed that up in 2017 with another great year, as he threw for 4,300 yards, 38 touchdowns, and had 6 more scores on the ground. He became one of the best quarterbacks in Memphis Tigers history, led them to 2 straight pretty big bowl games, and even got a couple chances to work out for NFL teams. Yes, Tennessee had Josh Dobbs at the time, but Ferguson was a great player that they let get away, and I'm going to say it's a quarterback mistake. The next guy we're going to take a look at is someone who they missed out on in the 2022 recruiting class. His name is Ty Simpson. If you follow recruiting or you're an Alabama or Clemson fan, then Simpson is a name you know a lot about. Tennessee knew about him a lot longer. He grew up in Martin, Tennessee and went to Westview High School, and he has been a big-time legend in the area for multiple years now. He's been a quarterback that the Volunteers tried to land his entire career, but unfortunately they could not get the job done. He gave Josh Heupel 4 days to convince him to go there, but on a Friday afternoon, Simpson committed to Alabama over Clemson and Tennessee. You don't have many opportunities to get 5-star quarterbacks out of your own state, and Tennessee messed up on this one big time, and in my eyes, he's my favorite 2022 quarterback, and I'm really pumped to see what Simpson will do at Bama, but this one sucks for Tennessee, and they're going to have to go in a different direction. The next one is a tough pill to swallow for the Volunteers faithful. Trevor Lawrence grew up in East Tennessee and was a Volunteers fan from a very young age. Lawrence quickly became a football prodigy, but at that point he had already been moved to Georgia. At one point early on during his recruiting process, he was in love with the Volunteers program and even said the Volunteers were his dream offer. For a while, some wondered if Trevor could come in and save the program. Well, they had one of their worst years ever in 2017. Butch Jones was gone and they were in rebuild mode, so Trevor decided to go to Clemson instead. One of Lawrence's best receivers at Clemson was T. Higgins, and he was originally committed to Tennessee. They missed out on 2 big-time stars, and oh, what this could have been for Tennessee. The next guy we're going to talk about is someone who has a huge deal coming out of high school and was supposed to be a volunteer, but thankfully for Tennessee, I guess, they did dodge a bullet, as he's been pretty underwhelming and one of the biggest quarterback busts we've seen this decade. His name was Hunter Johnson. He came from Brownsburg High School in Indianapolis, Indiana, and was wanted by every school in the country. At one point, he was the #1 quarterback in his class, and he decided to take his talents to Tennessee. Johnson loved the atmosphere, the coaches, and the ability to play in the SEC, so this was a huge deal for the Volunteers community. Then, he decided to flip. He got an offer from Clemson and decided to become the quarterback for Coach Dabo Swinney instead. Well, he didn't even end up playing much for the Tigers, as Kelly Bryant and Trevor Lawrence beat him out, and he decided to get out of Dodge and transfer. He ended up going to Northwestern, where he has been pretty bad. In 2019, he only played in a couple games and threw 1 touchdown compared to 4 interceptions, and then did not appear in a single matchup in 2020. In 2021, he did start the opening game, but after 4 picks and 4 touchdowns, he was benched once again for Ryan Helinski, and it looks like Hunter Johnson's football career is nearing an end. Tennessee, you dodged a bullet, but at the time, this looked bad. The next guy we need to talk about is someone who would eventually become a college football superstar and one of the best quarterbacks in his program's history. He was originally a Tennessee commit. You're probably familiar with the name, as the guy we're talking about is Bryce Petty. Well, coming out of high school, he wasn't exactly that big of a deal, as he wasn't even a top 1,000 player and was barely a 3-star recruit. He was still committed to the Volunteers at one point before Lane Kiffin decided he didn't want him and told him to go elsewhere. I guess Kiffin had another quarterback in mind, and Petty went on to go to Baylor. After sitting out a few years, he started in both 2013 and 2014 and was a Heisman contender both years. He threw for over 4,000 yards and 32 touchdowns in 2013, and then in 2014 he threw for nearly 4,000 yards and 29 touchdowns, and he also combined for 21 rushing touchdowns in those 2 years. He's one of the best quarterbacks in Baylor history, and I would say he is the second best after RG3. Tennessee could have had this guy, but Lane Kiffin wanted someone else. We have 2 more players to talk about, and one of them is someone who was also part of the program for a couple years before he would transfer, become a college football star, and eventually get to the NFL. While he is an extreme meme in the NFL, the guy we're going to talk about is Nathan Peterman. Coming out of Jacksonville, Florida, he was a big deal. He was a 4-star recruit, a top 400 player, and the number 17 pro-style quarterback in the class of 2012. He arrived at Tennessee with a lot of hype, but he never lived up to it. In the 2013 and 2014 seasons combined, he didn't even pass for a total of 500 yards, didn't throw for a single touchdown, and had 2 picks. Because of that, he decided to transfer to find a new school, and he would end up actually saving his career. He went to Pittsburgh, where in those 2 years, he threw for over 5,000 yards with 47 touchdowns. Because of that, he was good enough to go to the NFL, as he was drafted. He's been a career backup, but he most notably got a chance with the Bills and was known for throwing a ton of picks. While that will be his football legacy, and to be fair, he showed no promise while he was at Tennessee, they let a really good quarterback get away from him. The final guy we need to talk about is someone who was committed to the program, but ended up flipping because his offer was pulled. You may or may not know this because I've talked about this a ton on my channel before, but Adrian Martinez was originally committed to Tennessee. Him and Michael Penix Jr. were in the same class, and Butch Jones was very excited for both of these guys. Martinez was a big deal. Coming out of the state of California, he was the 7th best dual-threat quarterback in the country and the 139th overall player in the class of 2018. But when Pruitt came in, he pulled Martinez's offer as well and wanted JT Shrout. Because of that, Adrian Martinez went to Scott Frost at Nebraska, and he has since started the last 4 seasons. While he has been criticized a lot, Martinez has been a solid starting quarterback, as during his time at Nebraska, he's thrown for over 7,000 yards with 40 touchdowns. Not only that, but he's also ran for over 2,000 yards with 32 touchdowns, and he will go down as one of the better quarterbacks in Nebraska history. Say what you want about him, he has good stats, he could have been better than Jarrett Guarantano, and this is a guy Tennessee had, but they didn't want him. So yeah, in today's video, we talked about 8 quarterback mess-ups that Tennessee has had, and these are guys that they either had committed, big-time prospects they let slip away from them, or guys who transferred. What do you guys think, though? What was the most surprising guy in today's video? What school should I do next? Was there any other guy I missed? And should I do more videos like this? Be sure to let me know down in the comment section, and with that like button, and don't forget to subscribe, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.